In the early 1950s, a plan was born in Britain to create a kind of miracle in the world of aviation. Imagine being able to board a plane in the center of London. Let's fly straight to Paris and land in the heart of the city without having to deal with an airport. No long drive to the suburbs, no noisy terminals. Instead, boarding an aircraft in the city center, gliding through the air, and landing right on the roof of a building or a park in the heart of the city. That idea isn't just science fiction, but a plane that was designed in the middle of the 20th century to make it a reality. It was called the Fairey Rotodyne. The Rotodyne was neither a helicopter nor a traditional airplane, but a daring combination of both. It could take off and land vertically like a helicopter, but once in the air, it could fly as fast as a fixed-wing aircraft thanks to its powerful turbine engine. After the Second World War, the demand for air travel increased sharply, but airport infrastructure was still extremely limited. Commercial aviation at that time mainly relied on propeller-driven piston engines rather than turbojet or ramjet engines. At the same time, there was also a huge advantage that the plane could take off and land vertically. Many companies are working to design vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, but that technology is still far away. So is there any aircraft that can meet the needs of the time? The answer is yes, and that is the Fairey Rotodyne. The Rotodyne was introduced in the 1950s as a revolutionary machine. On the top, it had a large rotor measuring about 27 meters in diameter. But what was special was that the rotor did not rotate using a shaft engine like a helicopter, but used a jet system at the tip of each rotor blade, a very rare mechanism. This system works by pumping compressed air from the main engine to the rotor blade tip, then injecting fuel and igniting it right there. The resulting jet force is created at the wingtip, rotating the rotor without the need for a drive shaft. This mechanism had two big advantages. First, it did not create torque like a helicopter, so there was no need for a tailplane to balance it. Second, it allowed the rotor to stop working after takeoff to switch to fixed wing mode. The two short wings of the fuselage were each equipped with two Napier Eland engines, a powerful turboprop. These engines have two jobs. During takeoff and landing, they supply the rotorjet system with compressed air, provide thrust for the aircraft in level flight. Once it reaches cruising altitude, the rotor will stop receiving power, switching to autorotation, and the propellers of the two engines will take on the main role of pushing the aircraft forward. In terms of appearance, the Rotodyne looks like a flying bus. The spacious fuselage has a large passenger compartment, and the rear doors open wide for easy loading of cargo and luggage. Depending on the configuration, it can carry 40 to 50 passengers, equivalent to a small commercial aircraft. Fairey expects the Rotodyne to operate between skyscrapers, land on the roof of a train station or urban airport, and fly between cities like London and Manchester in just 30 minutes, instead of hours. On November 6, 1957, the first prototype of the Fairey Rotodyne took to the air. It was a historic moment, the first time the world had seen an aircraft that could take off vertically like a helicopter, and fly horizontally as fast and far as a fixed-wing aircraft. The test flights lasted for several months and quickly achieved important milestones. Maximum speed in the test was 307 kilometers per hour. Range was more than 600 kilometers, more than enough for short flights between European cities. The ability to take off from small city parking lots showed that the Rotodyne could do what conventional aircraft could not. A year later, in 1958, the Rotodyne appeared at the Farnborough Air Show, attracting great attention from the international media and airlines. All saw a promising future, an air vehicle for inner-city and inner-city routes, without the need for traditional airports. The Rotodyne soon attracted interest from a range of parties. As a major British airline, BA saw a golden opportunity in using the Rotodyne to transport passengers between city centers such as London, Birmingham, Manchester, Paris, etc. They expected a fleet of Rotodynes to be able to make dozens of flights a day, saving time and money. Across the Atlantic, New York Airways, which already operated helicopters for inner-city routes, also expressed interest. With a rooftop parking facility, they believed that Rotodyne could become the first large-scale urban passenger transport solution in the U.S. With the ability to take off from narrow terrain and carry troops and heavy cargo, Rotodyne became an ideal candidate for military transport. The British military hoped to use it for rapid operations, especially in areas without airports. For Fairey aviation at the time, the outlook was bright. If mass-produced, the Rotodyne could completely change the way aviation operated. However, As confidence was rising, a serious problem began to become apparent. Noise, specifically. During takeoff and landing, the jet system at the rotor's wingtips emitted a sound of up to 113 decibels, equivalent to the sound of a jet taking off at close range. This noise was not uniform, but fluctuated with each rotation of the rotor, causing a rumbling feeling, which was easily annoying and difficult to cover with conventional soundproofing. As one engineer once described it, "It's not just loud, it vibrates the surrounding air. You feel like a hurricane is exploding over your head." For landing sites located in urban areas on the roofs of railway stations, train stations, or financial centers, this was a problem that could not be ignored. Fairey worked hard to address it, modifying the jet combustion chamber to reduce noise, optimizing the shape of the rotor blades, testing soundproofing materials around the flight area. But despite some reductions, the noise was still too high for an urban environment. Airlines began to hesitate. Governments also required proof that the noise problem could be completely eliminated before approving mass production. In 1959, the British government forced Fairey Aviation to merge with Westland Aircraft, a company that also manufactured helicopters and was receiving many military contracts. Although on paper it was a partnership, in reality Fairey was swallowed up, and the Rotodyne project became a side project in a company with a completely different direction. What was more worrying was that Westland was not really interested in Rotodyne. They had their own helicopter products that were doing well and did not want to bet on a risky, expensive, and uncertain project. Fairey, from being a pioneer, was now an outsider in its own dream. To continue the Rotodyne project, Fairey needed a mass production order, a prerequisite for the government to fund and sustain the project. British European Airways, the largest airline in the UK at the time, was enthusiastic about the Rotodyne. They asked for an improved version that could carry 65 passengers, be much quieter, and be more fuel efficient. Fairey drew up detailed plans for a new model called the Rotodyne Z, longer, with more powerful engines and a lighter structure. That would meet BEA's requirements. However, things got stuck in a financial rut. The government wanted B to commit to the purchase before approving the budget. B wanted the government to fund it first and then consider the order. Neither would take the lead. Meanwhile, the military, once the hope for transport contracts, also turned its back. They judged the Rotodyne too large and complex for field use, especially with the Chinook transport helicopter from the US. With no orders, no development capital, and no support from the parent company, the Fairey Rotodyne project was officially killed in 1962. If the Rotodyne had been launched at a time when lighter materials, quieter engines, and better urban infrastructure were available, it might have become the standard for medium-range transportation, instead of a forgotten project. The sad thing is that the Rotodyne did not fail because of engineering. It failed because of a lack of faith, patience, and long-term vision. Today, only a few black and white photos and faded videos remain to remind us of an aircraft that once flew over the British skies with its propellers spinning. Alright everyone, we've come to the end of today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Thank you, and see you next time.